Guys, it's Milka. Welcome back to my channel. In today's video, I actually wanted to do something that I haven't really seen on YouTube that I would have really liked, and that is a little bit of a deeper look at Lennon Toolbar's limited edition Stationery Fest ink that they made. It was an ink that they made specifically for Stationery Fest, Yoseka Stationery Fest. And it is called Bubble Tea, and this is a very light, milky color that would be categorized as part of the browns, the brown family, I guess. And though there are a couple of pictures, I find that there isn't really all too much content on this this bubble tea ink. So I figured I would make some content, more of a video that I think I would have liked to see before I purchased the ink. Now, I went to Stationery Fest and I passed on the bubble tea ink when I was actually speaking with the people at Lennon Toolbar. I did purchase 3 inks from them, and I decided to pass on the bubble tea because I was like, you know what? It's a little too light for me. And then something came over me, you guys. I don't know what it was. I was like frantically searching for something that is in a similar, I can speak, in a similar shade to this ink. Okay, so I was like, where can I find an ink that is similar to this? I've kind of been on the search for it. And then I realized, which is something that I'm going to talk about in this video as well, that honestly, there are quite a few inks that I've encountered by Dominant Industry and by Lennon Toolbar that could be considered lighter, but then once they, I don't want to say what would the proper term be? Not oxidized, but you know, once you kind of keep it in a pen for a couple of days, it starts writing a little bit darker. And that's what I wanted from bubble tea when I first swatched it, was I wanted to see what it would look like a couple of days later. I forgot to think about that before, like when I was looking at the bottles and thinking, oh, you know, maybe I won't buy it. So I ended up buying it. Bubble Tea is a limited edition ink. So this is bottle number 348. You can see it's handwritten on the side of each box. This is the box that it comes in, and they made 1,001. So I know that you can purchase them on a couple of websites. I purchased mine on Atlas. I purchased mine at Atlas Stationery, and that's just because I purchased something else there, and technically, the bottle is cheaper on Atlas, but the shipping was more expensive for Atlas compared to like Yoseka Stationery, which is also my local stationery shop. But the bottle is like $2 more on Yoseka, but their shipping is cheaper. But because I was purchasing other things at Atlas that was only sold at Atlas, I was able to just bring up the thing to make it free shipping, because I was looking for a color potion and Yoseka doesn't sell that, which was ultimately why I went with buying it, you know, at Atlas, whatever, that's not important. Basically, all this to say, I think the most accurate color swatch that I've seen from a stationery store for this ink would probably be Yoseka's listing for it, because they do use Tomoe River paper, so it feels like it's a lot more accurate in their like swatches. But yes, oh, what I was mentioning, these inks tend to get a little bit darker, and that's something I forgot about when I was first looking at the ink. And I was like, oh my goodness, this is a little light. I don't mind light inks, but I was like, this is a little too pale. If it was just a tiny smidgen darker, just like literally a tiny smidgen, okay? Like a millimeter of a shade darker, I would want it. And I figure it's going to look like that. But anyway, okay, let's get into it. I've got 6 inks that I'm going to be doing a comparison with, including the bubble tea ink, and we're going to start with the bubble tea. So I'm going to be doing little circle swatches so you can have a little bit more of a comparison on one page, and I will be using a little dropper here, my handy dandy Hokuro dip pens, which I love. I have a fine and a medium because these are the nib sizes that I tend to write with, and both of them have a little feed on the back to make it as accurate as dipping it into an actual fountain pen as possible. And I use the bottom of my Yoseka like sample bottle to swirl it into a circle. So let's get started. We're going to start with, and also I'm going to show you a little writing sample of the inks as well afterwards. But let's start with the star of the show, the Lennon Toolbar Bubble Tea for Stationery Fest 2024. Okay, Yoseka's. I'm going to stop talking. I'm just like, at this point, I don't know. Okay, I did use this little pipette to go with a blue ink. So since this is such a light ink, I don't want to risk any kind of contamination. So I just wanted to clean that out one more time. And let me actually grab a little paper towel to kind of dry everything. All right. So, and of course I'll show you a more zoomed in version of this once I am done with all of the swatches. Okay. Alrighty. So this tea, I feel like, is very accurate to the name. I'm gonna do a big swatch. I do 1 drop for each swatch, so I kind of spread it out thin. Here we go. And I will say all of these inks that I'm going to be using today are a little bit flesh toned. So on some level you can say they're kind of shades of human skin. But yes, so the way that I do my swatches in my little ink book is I'll do the circle and then I'll write the brand's name in a fine nib. So Lennon Tool Bar. And then in the medium nib, I write the name of the ink. Okay. I don't know why I make sound effects, you guys. If you decide to tune into my videos in general, you'll notice that, and I can't help it. It's involuntary. Okay, so this is Bubble Tea. What is that line from Macbeth? Bubble, bubble, toil and trouble. Something, something, cauldron. Maybe I'm getting it super confused. Something, something, cauldron, bubble. I don't know. That's a little too many bubbles and trouble and whatever. But okay, so that's bubble tea. I would like to write that it's, you know, the Yoseka Stationery Fest limited edition, but that's going to take up too much. It's going to throw off the symmetry, so we're not going to do that. Okay. So that is bubble tea. Okay. Next up, we've got Dominant Industry November Leaves. And I actually got this sample recently at Yoseka in person. And I really like it. I think it's cool. I'm excited to put it into a pen. And it's very, I got it before I got my bubble tea ink because I was kind of thinking, I don't need the bubble tea ink. I don't need it. Milka, you don't need it. And I was looking for alternatives, and I came across this by chance. I don't even remember how I kind of, oh yes, I wanted to see what this November, because I was born in November. So I was like, what does this November Leaves ink look like? And when I did the swatch, I was like, ah, this is actually quite lovely. All right. And I would say that of the bunch, that you guys are going to see with the inks that I'm showing you, this one is the closest to bubble tea that I have seen so far. So, but I do not claim to be a connoisseur of ink, and I don't know if maybe there's another ink out there that is closer to bubble tea than this. And when I say close, I don't mean that there's the same, exact same. They are a couple of shades off from each other, but the vibe is very similar, and I feel like the illusion when you are writing is quite similar too. Or the experience, not illusion. Oh my gosh. Here I was talking about symmetry, and I just messed up my own swatch thing. I put it on the wrong line. Okay, so you know what? That means that I can write that this is the Yoseka. That was the universe. It was saying, Milka, just do what you want. Okay, November leaves. And I'm just gonna do the, you know, Yoseka Stationery Fest 2024 really quickly, because clearly the universe wants it. I did not do this on purpose. Well, obviously. Yes, okay. I don't know if you can tell from this distance and with the lighting that, oh, you know what? I have a better way of getting you guys better lighting. Oh, I'll turn off that other light and give you different lighting afterwards once it's all done. Okay. I will use the fine nib for this. I'm just gonna go back to the bubble tea really quickly and fill it in. Okay. All right, the next ink is going to be Ink Institute's Moonshine. So it's Ink Institute, not Ink Institutes. And the ink is called Moonshine. This is a really interesting ink as well. I got this sample also not too long ago. Let me tell you, this ink is like a science experiment, okay? The color changing aspect of this ink is very unique in my personal opinion. First of all, if you just look based off of this little drop, it is such a dark color, right? The ink itself looks very dark, but once you swatch it, it is such a pale color, also like a peachy flesh tone type of color. And it comes down, like when it's wet, it almost looks I can speak, what the heck? When it's wet, it almost looks a little like a very warm toned gray with maybe like a tiny green undertone. But as it dries, it becomes this like peachy color. You see, like it's got this like greenish, grayish, sloshy kind of vibe to it. And then as it dries, like I said, it becomes more peachy and hard to read. And then as it dries even more, or like when you let it sit after it's dried, it becomes more legible, which is just so fascinating. That's why I'm saying it's like a science experiment. It's definitely an interesting experience. I would say, I don't know if I would say for people to go ahead and buy a bottle of this ink, just because I definitely don't think it's for everyone. Most of these inks, especially the ones, really it's just the ones in the top row that I'm going to be showing you guys, there could be a bit of an issue with legibility for some people. I don't mind if an ink is light, but I know some people could have, maybe they don't have the best lighting or, you know, eyesight. So yeah, Institute. And I've noticed apart from like Ferris wheel press, that a lot of the time you see these lighter ink colors in coming from like Asian ink companies. So at least that's an observation I have made, because I haven't seen like Diamine or Pelikan's Edelstein, or I don't know, what's another, Jayarban, you know, coming out with ink colors that are this light. So I've noticed that this is something that I see more in like Korean inks, Japanese inks, Taiwanese inks, right? So this one is Moonshine. And I'm wondering, I have a feeling that I predominantly use Tomoe River paper, but I have a feeling that Moonshine is going to be one of those inks that could just behave differently on all kinds of different papers. So I'm really curious to see how it would behave on like Clairefontaine and whatever else. Would it dry the same? Would it look the same? I truly don't think it would, but again, there's no way of me backing that claim up. It's just an opinion or a hypothesis, if you will. This next ink, I actually purchased the full bottle at Stationery Fest. First, I purchased a sample of it from Yoseka, and I really love it, and that's actually Lennon Toolbar's Coastal Village. So yes, I'm comparing Lennon Toolbar with Lennon Toolbar, but yes, okay. Lennon Coastal Village is an ink that I really, really like. I currently have it inked in 2 pens in my Pilot Custom 823, as well as my, okay, I literally looked it up. I always have a hard time pronouncing this because I didn't know how it was supposed to be pronounced, but I looked it up a couple of days ago. It's the Turkish hand turn pen, or the Turkish pen that I have, and it's, okay, hold on. Studio Al Kakan. Al-Kakan. Studio Al-Kakan? Studio Al-Kakan. Something like that. I don't know. Okay. But yes, basically I have it in 2 pens, is what I'm trying to say. And yes, this is it. I really, 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 really like this ink. I wish I had a sample of Oyster Hour so that I can compare for you guys. Because from what I've seen online, it could be kind of similar, but I'm thinking that maybe Coastal Village is a little lighter than Oyster Hour. But again, I don't know, because I haven't seen it. I never purchased a sample of it. I wanted to use inks that maybe are more popular. Oh no, the feed came off. But yes, I wanted to use inks that were more popular, that more of you guys could be familiar with, because I know a lot of people have Oyster Hour. Oh, I see. It's because the nib itself came out. 1 second, guys. We're having a bit of a malfunction. Okay, sorry for the cut, you guys. Had a little malfunction with the nib feed thing. Okay, so this is another Lennon toolbar. And this is another ink that I have experienced firsthand by inking it in 2 different pens, how it can look vastly different based off of what kind of pen you're putting it into. Not vastly, but it can look different. It could look either like this, which is what it looks like out of the bottle, or it can look a smidgen darker, again, depending on which pen nib combo you're putting it into. So I personally preferred this lighter shade of it. Okay. Coastal Village. Okay. All right, next up we're going to be using Diamine's Weeping Willow. I have a very tiny ink vent calendar style, well, not style, it is from an ink vent calendar bottle of it. I actually got this bottle at Bob Slate Stationery in Boston. And what I really like about Bob Slate is that if they have any leftover ink vent calendars past the date, they will actually sell the inks individually. And this one has been laying around for a while. So not only was it something super affordable, but they also actually sold it to me for half off. So I was really grateful. I paid like, what, $2 for this? It was kind of like getting 2 samples for $1 or something. How big are these? These aren't... How many milliliters are these? 12 milliliters. Yeah, like $2 and change for 12 milliliters of ink. That's not a bad deal at all. Okay. So something that I'm noticing off the bat is that Weeping Willow has a greenish undertone that was kind of reminiscent of moonshine. I mean, it's coming up more so here, obviously, but yeah, that feels like something similar between the two. Okay. Okay. I really like this color. Honestly, I really like all of these colors. The only one that I'm not that jazzed about would be Moonshine. I like it, but I think I can only handle so much of it, to be completely honest with you. It's one that I personally wouldn't get a full bottle of, but if you're going to be painting with it, I would say that it would be a great buy, because I feel like it's a nice flesh tone. It's a nice peachy color. So it can probably be used in, well, a couple of things really. Yeah, it's not full peachy, but it is all of these inks apart from Weeping Willow, you're going to hear me talk about them as if they're a flesh tone, and that's because I truly believe that they kind of are. So I think even bubble tea is also a flesh tone. It's a little bit more warm toned, I would say. I think maybe that's why I like bubble tea more, and November Leaves and Coastal Village and all of that, because Moonshine is a little bit more cool toned. It leans more pink, whereas Bubble Tea, November Leaves, and the others are more warm toned. Yeah, they're just leaning a little bit more towards yellowish kind of dealio. Okay, and then last but not least, we're going to be using sesame oil. Like I said, I wanted to try to use inks that were very popular so that people can get an idea of how different or similar bubble tea could be to those inks, or so you can get an idea of the shading, right? Because things are always going to look a little off or just slightly different on camera than they would in person. Though I will say technology has advanced greatly and my phone is pretty good at picking up accurate colors, but just in case. Okay, so this is Lennon Toolbar Sesame Oil. I also just have a sample of this, but this is a lovely color too. Something that I've noticed, and this is the reason that I purchased Coastal Village over sesame oil, is I kind of like inks that maybe aren't always, not all the time, you know, like I like inks that are trendy too, but I feel like I like inks that aren't as popular, or the inks that are super popular, I sometimes don't actually like them at all. Like if I buy into the hype, oftentimes I could be disappointed. And I should have just trusted myself in knowing that I don't like it. So I've experienced that a couple of times where I purchased an ink because I was like, you know what, everyone seems to like it on the photo. I kind of like it as well. So I'll get it, and then I regretted it. So I did that I did that actually at Stationery Fest. There was an ink from Tasia that was very, very popular, and they told me, like, you know, we only have 2 bottles left. It's the first day and we already only have 2 bottles left, and it's super popular. It's always sold out. People are constantly requesting us to stock it again. And I already had an ink in mind that I wanted to get that was slightly similar, not exactly the same, but slightly similar. So I ended up buying both because I was like, well, what if I get upset that I left this behind and whatever? And I regretted it. I should have just trusted my gut and not I mean, it's fine. I'll probably kind of use it, but I don't have a burning desire for it or that much of an interest in it, you know? And I was like, okay, this is the second time that I get an ink that was all the hype and that I'm not for. So I've just got to trust my gut. Sometimes just because it's popular doesn't mean that it's going to be your thing. So, but yeah, that was my little rant. This is probably going to be the longest portion of the video because I had to do it outright. The other stuff I already pre-did, but I'm going to give you a little bit of a close-up while some of it is drying. You can see bubble tea. Okay, let me see if I can actually get a more color accurate close up. Why is it coming across so pale? All right, not entirely sure how accurately this is gonna pick up the color on camera, and I won't know until I start editing. So unfortunately, we're just gonna have to kind of deal with this. Please focus. Okay, so these are the 3 inks. Let me actually turn off the other light, maybe that can help. Okay, I think that has helped to kind of make this a little bit more accurate. They are still drying, but these are the inks. Okay. Yeah, it's just, it doesn't seem like it's coming through the color accuracy. So I don't know what to do about that, but okay. We'll just have to kind of live with it. Okay, guys, next is going to be an ink exploration comparison, like writing comparison, so you can see what they look like. I already did this. So at the top here, we've got, focus please. This is the bubble tea. November Leaves, The Moonshine, Weeping Willow, Coastal Village, and Sesame Oil. Again, it doesn't feel like the camera is picking up the color correctly. And I don't know what to do about that. But you can kind of see the writing. Oops, sorry. Here. So for bubble tea, I wrote, I will admit this ink is light, but I feel like if I were to leave it in a pen for a day or 2, it will get a bit darker. It's a lovely vanilla-esque color, but of course it also resembles its namesake, me likey. Okay, next will be November Leaves. Honestly, I really like this color too. Keep in mind that this isn't what that this ink would also probably get darker slightly if left in a pen for a day. This ink makes me think of a latte with a lot of milk and of course an iced coffee latte. Okay, next up would be Moonshine. This one may be a little harder to read in person. Hold on. When this ink goes down, it looks very pale and almost like a faint gray with a green undertone. As it dries, it evolves over the course of 60 seconds or so. It's very fascinating, like a science experiment. It's light, though. Okay, Weeping Willow. Initially, from one of my ink swatches, I thought this could be a good comparable ink. Not the same, but similar. Since then, I don't agree. It's nice, but, hold on. It's nice, but side by side, they are nothing alike. Still a lovely ink, though. Coastal Village. Okay, I actually love this ink and own a full bottle. I wonder how comparable it is to Ferris Wheel Press Oyster Hour, but I've never tried that ink. This ink could also get slightly darker when it sits in a pen for a while. Not bubble tea, but some kind of beverage. Yeah, this ink makes me think of another type of a beverage. Probably also in the coffee-esque family, or like an English tea with milk, you know. Okay, finally, Lennon Toolbar Sesame Oil. Okay, this ink is probably the darkest of the bunch, but I figure since it was quite popular, this is a sample by the way, that it could aid in comparison. Of course, I'm sure you guys know that depending on the nib pen properties of the ink and exposure to air and other elements, inks can sometimes appear darker after being freshly inked in a pen. So that was my final note and my little comparison. But yeah, I know this was just a summary of everything that I mentioned earlier, but this is just what I wrote. You guys can pause it here. This is as in-depth as I could try to get this review. Something that I did want to show you though is if you were to look at how Moonshine looks here and compare it to how it looks here. Okay, this is when Moonshine was sitting in a pen for a day. Now I inked it up in this Opus 88 Mini Celestial Zodiac because this is a new pen, and with this writing sample I actually used this pen for all of them. So I cleaned out this pen and inked it up multiple times for this review. This is a broad nib, so you got to see what it would look like in a fine and a medium with the initial ink swatch, and then a broad with this writing sample. So you can see this compared to this. It is the same ink. So something that I'm really curious about is I did not flush this pen when I bought it. I don't know if Opus 88 had like some factory ink on it, on the nib, that I didn't know about, and maybe it got darker, or if this is just the actual ink itself, because like I said, a lot of the time when you see these kinds of lighter inks, they can get darker in a pen. So I've had bubble tea in this pen for the majority of the day. I let it sit after I inked it up. I had cleaned it out from this initial thing because I did it in order here. But now I've had this inked, like I said, for a day. It hasn't been 24 hours, but it's been a few hours. And I'm curious to see how it will write. So I'll do one final writing sample on this page, and we can compare it after it dries. Okay, so I have it here. Now, if the camera is kind of blurry right now, I apologize. I cannot see that, so I'll make sure that it is not blurry when we actually look at the side-by-sides. So there we go. This is Opus 88 Mini Celestial Zodiac. And when I say this pen is new, you guys, I mean this pen just came in yesterday. So it is very much new. Lennon, and it's my first Opus 88, so that's exciting. Tool bar. I know there are a couple of videos already on this pen. I know Leanne from Leanne Likes made a video on it, and a couple of other pen review channels have a video on this too. But if you guys want to see a video on this channel about this pen, let me know. Maybe I'll still make it anyway, but if you want to see it, I can also do a video, because I don't know, when I am looking into getting a new pen or ink, even if everybody is showing the exact same thing, I like to see multiple videos and look at all of the content that has to do with it. So I don't know if anybody out there is like that as well, and they're looking to, you know, have a similar experience. I don't mind making that video. Okay, it's still drying, but let's do a quick 1-2. Okay, off the bat, it already looks different, right? Like, it looks different. Or is it just me? Is it just me, or does it look slightly darker? Doesn't this look slightly darker? Okay, let me try to bring it closer to you guys. One second. Here it is. Okay. The new, the old. It's different, no? There's more shading here. That's the difference. The color is the same, but there's more shading in this one. Can you see that? Again, it doesn't look like it's picking up well on camera, which is unfortunate. You can see the difference. You see what I mean? Sitting a day or two makes a difference, you guys. One sec. Okay. So that was my little comparison video. I hope you guys enjoyed. I'm sorry if it's just not as color accurate as it could be. I don't know, some colors are harder to pick up on camera. So especially if you're doing a video recording, I film everything on my iPhone. So yeah, this is as good as I can get it, but hopefully this helps some of you. Maybe you have some of these other inks. And yeah, so you can kind of see, oh, okay, this is lighter and whatever else then, or actually let me flip the final time to this page. But yeah, so you can see, oh, okay, this is lighter than maybe I have sesame oil, and I see compared to sesame oil, this ink is basically invisible. Or I have Dominant Industries November Leaves, and I can see that if I can read this, there's a good chance I can read this one, or this one is slightly darker. Or maybe a rare few of you actually own Moonshine. So I don't know if anybody does, but if you do, let me know, okay? But you can see comparing Moonshine and Bubble Tea, similar, but definitely not. It's like this is a warm tone color and this is a cool tone with like a pinkish undertone, peachy undertone. But yeah, thank you guys for stopping by, and I hope you have a beautiful rest of your day. Bye.